close your eyes for a moment and imagine stepping into a world that no human has ever seen. A world where the ground trembles beneath the weight of giants, and the silence of the plains is broken only by the cries of ancient beasts. The year is 7.7 million years ago. There are no cities, no fire, no voices to call a language. Only endless savannas, deep forests, and creatures locked in an eternal struggle to survive. The sky burns orange as the sun sets over Africa. Herds of strange animals drift across the horizon, their shapes half familiar, half alien. Primitive elephants with 4 tusks, giant apes vanishing into the treetops, and predators lurking in the tall grass, their eyes glowing as shadows lengthen. Among them, a fragile figure takes its first uncertain steps. Not quite ape, not yet human. Upright, scanning the distance, clumsy yet determined. It is here, in this forgotten age, that the first sparks of a destiny are struck. But survival in this harsh world would demand more than instinct. It would demand something new, something dangerous. And so begins the story of the dawn of the first hunters. The Earth, 7.7 million years ago, was a place of constant change. Africa, the birthplace of our earliest ancestors, was caught between 2 worlds. Thick, lush forests still stretched across parts of the land, but slowly the climate was shifting. Rains grew unpredictable. Dry seasons lasted longer. Trees began to thin, giving way to wide, grassy plains. The air itself was different. Slightly lower in oxygen, heavier to breathe. Storms rolled across the horizon with little warning, and rivers could vanish within weeks, leaving behind cracked soil and desperate thirst. Life here was not stable. It was a game of chance, and the players were extraordinary. Fossils tell us of bizarre, powerful creatures. Early elephants with 2 sets of tusks roamed in herds, tearing down vegetation as they moved. Antelope-like grazers scattered at the faintest sound. Enormous apes clung to the safety of trees, while ancient big cats and crocodiles ruled the shadows below. For most, survival meant clinging to the old ways, hiding, running, waiting. But for a few, change forced something different. Forced them onto the open ground. Forced them to risk everything. It was here, in this shifting landscape, that the first steps toward becoming human were taken. Steps that would change the course of history forever. Yet, every adaptation carried danger. Every choice brought them closer to survival or extinction. The forests that once fed and sheltered them were vanishing. Season after season, the canopy grew thinner, and the safety of the trees slipped away. What had once been a world of abundance was turning into a test of endurance. Fruit was harder to find. Streams that once ran steady now dried to mud. Thirst crept in. Hunger lingered. Families of apes were forced out of the branches, down onto the grasslands, where the rules of survival were very different. On the ground, danger was everywhere. The grass concealed predators waiting to strike. Lions' ancestors stalked in silence. Crocodiles lurked in shrinking rivers. Even a single misstep could mean death. And yet, there was no turning back. To stay in the trees was to starve. To step into the open was to gamble with life itself. So they stumbled forward, awkward and exposed. Standing upright gave them an advantage, the chance to see across the plains, to spot threats before they came too close. But with every step, they also became visible, vulnerable. Each day was a series of impossible choices. Do they stay by the dying forest, or follow herds into the dangerous grasslands? Do they risk the river, knowing what lurks beneath? Do they scatter to survive, or cling together in fear? A wrong choice meant extinction. A right choice meant survival, for now. But nature was not finished testing them. For in this harsh new world, the greatest danger was not only hunger or predators. It was the need to adapt faster than ever before. And what they would discover next would change everything. Step by step, they began to change. What started as desperation slowly became adaptation. Walking upright, though clumsy at first, revealed new possibilities. From this higher view, they could scan the horizon, track moving herds, and watched the approach of predators. What was once a weakness, stumbling in the open, became a fragile strength. Their hands, freed from climbing, began to explore. At first they grabbed sticks, stones, and bones only to throw them in panic. But in time, something shifted. A branch became more than wood. A rock became more than stone. These were no longer just objects. They became tools. Crude, imperfect, but powerful. The first crack of stone against nut echoed across the savannah. A stick, sharpened by accident, became a weapon against smaller predators. A bone split open, revealing marrow rich with energy. Little by little, survival was no longer about running. It was about creating. Still, the nights were cruel. Without fire, darkness brought fear. They huddled together, listening to roars in the distance, feeling the chill of the wind. Their strength was not only in tools, but in each other. Safety came from closeness, from family, from watching the horizon as one. This was resilience, not the strength of claws or teeth, but the strength of adaptation, curiosity, and unity. But deep within these fragile beginnings lay a question. Were they merely surviving, or were they becoming something more? For hidden in their simple tools, in their upright stance, and in their restless curiosity was the spark of a future that no other creature had ever touched. And that spark was about to change the world forever. And then a quiet revolution began. It did not arrive in a single moment, but in countless small choices. A stone picked up, a stick carried further than before, a bone split open for the first time. Each action, insignificant on its own, began to shape a destiny unlike any other. Fossils whisper clues of this turning point. Teeth show scratches from new foods, tougher, harder, richer. Bones reveal signs of upright walking, of hands that gripped and struck. These early beings were no longer simply foragers. They were scavengers and, perhaps, the first hunters. But here lies the mystery. Did they truly hunt? Or did they only follow predators, stealing what was left behind? Were they creators of opportunity, or shadows feeding on the risks of others? The evidence does not speak clearly. It leaves us with questions, not answers. And yet, one truth shines through. Their minds were changing. They were not just reacting to the world. They were imagining what could be done with it. A stick could protect. A stone could break. A plan could mean survival. The truth may be stranger than fiction. For in these plains, under skies of fire and dust, the first glimmers of intelligence appeared. But would this fragile spark survive? Or would time swallow it, leaving only bones buried in silence? The mystery lingers, waiting in the shadows of prehistory. When we look back across 7.7 million years, we're not just studying fossils or bones. We are tracing the first echoes of ourselves. Those fragile figures, stumbling through the grasslands, carried the beginnings of what it means to be human. Their struggles, hunger, thirst, fear of predators, were raw and immediate. And yet, their resilience, their curiosity, their will to adapt, these are the same forces that drive us today. We build cities instead of shelters. We hold technology instead of stones. But the essence is unchanged. We still face shifting climates, scarce resources, and dangers that test our unity. We still rely on each other, just as they once huddled in the dark, listening for predators in the night. It is humbling to think, the way we stand, the way we plan, even the way we dream, all of it began here, in those uncertain steps on an ancient plain. They did not know what future they were shaping, but we live it every day. Perhaps their greatest gift to us was not survival itself, but the courage to imagine survival in new ways. We are their story continued. Their unanswered questions live on in us. And maybe in some quiet way, we are still searching for what they began. And so, the story drifts into silence. We have walked the ancient plains, where giants roamed and shadows hunted. We have seen forests fall, rivers dry, and fragile creatures rise to meet a world that seemed determined to end them. They were not yet human, but they were no longer simply apes. They stood in the middle, between instinct and imagination, between fear and curiosity. Their struggle was not just to survive a changing Earth, but to discover what survival could mean. They carried stones, stumbled on 2 feet, and leaned on each other in the dark. Small acts, easily forgotten, yet they marked the beginning of something that would grow into us. The first hunters, the first dreamers. And yet, so much remains unknown. Did their spark endure? Or did it vanish, leaving the future to another branch of our family tree? The fossils answer in fragments, in whispers, never in certainty. Perhaps that is the beauty of it, that our origins are wrapped in mystery, hidden in silence, inviting us to imagine. The dawn of humanity is not a single moment. It is a shadow stretching across time, leading from their trembling steps to ours. And if their story began in whispers, who can say what echoes are still waiting in the silence?